The completion of such, I would say, energy suicide by the European Union, and for this silly ideological decision, we will all pay dearly.
Hungary has decided to take legal action in response to the European Union's plan to ban the import of Russian energy, marking a serious challenge to one of the bloc's most ambitious energy policies so far. Hungary's Foreign Minister, Peter Szijjártó, confirmed that his government had officially requested an annulment of the EU's new regulation, signaling Budapest's determination to protect its energy interests. Szijjártó emphasized that, under EU law, restrictions on energy imports can only be implemented through an agreed system of sanctions, not through independent policy changes. Hungary's foreign minister said, quote, "Today, we took legal action before the European Court of Justice to challenge the REPowerEU regulation, banning the import of Russian energy and request its annulment. Our case is based on three key arguments. First, energy imports can only be banned through sanctions, which require unanimity. This regulation was adopted under the guise of a trade policy measure. Second, the EU treaties clearly state that each member state decides its choice of energy sources and suppliers. Third, the principle of energy solidarity requires the security of energy supply for all member states. This decision clearly violates that principle, certainly in the case of Hungary." Unquote. He further underlined that such sanctions require the unanimous approval of all 27 member states in the European Union before they can legally take effect. It's important to remember that both Hungary and Slovakia remain deeply dependent on Russian fossil fuels, relying on them for a major share of their national energy consumption. For that reason, Hungary and Slovakia have repeatedly resisted or delayed EU measures aimed at supporting Ukraine, often citing the need to preserve their own energy security. In parallel, Slovakia revealed that it too plans to file a lawsuit against the EU's proposed energy ban, joining Hungary in direct opposition to Brussels' strategy.
The completion of such, I would say, energy suicide by the European Union, and for this silly ideological decision, we will all pay dearly. We are convinced, ladies and gentlemen, that this is a standard sanction, and in the case of sanctions, unanimity is required. But the Commission knew that if there was requirement of unanimity, then such stupidity could not pass, because there would be several countries that would either be against or at least abstain from voting. Therefore, they bypassed this principle, and this regulation was approved by qualified majority, which we consider a violation of the basic principles of the basic treaties on which the European Union is based. The government of the Slovak Republic, in the given situation, decided to use all the means at its disposal, and therefore we decided, and we discussed it twice in the government of the Slovak Republic, that we would file a lawsuit against this regulation with the Court of Justice of the European Union in Luxembourg. When the war ends, everyone will break their legs running to the Russian Federation. You are doing business as usual. That is, business as usually done.
On January 26, the European Union gave its final approval to a plan that will phase out all Russian gas imports by the year 2027, setting a firm deadline for complete separation. This move is part of the bloc's broader effort to end its long-standing dependence on Russian energy supplies and to strengthen its resilience against future geopolitical shocks. According to EU reports, these new regulations will start to apply 6 weeks after they officially come into force, allowing time for member states to prepare for implementation. The ban on liquefied natural gas imports from Russia is expected to take effect in early 2027, shortly followed by a total ban on Russian pipeline gas deliveries. To prevent Russian gas from entering the European market indirectly through third countries, members will now be required to verify the origin of all imported gas. Each EU country must also submit detailed diversification plans by March 1st, outlining the specific steps they will take to replace Russian gas with alternative energy sources. The regulation also establishes strict penalties for non-compliance, setting fines as high as €2.5 million for individuals who violate its provisions. Meanwhile, companies that fail to follow the new rules could face even heavier consequences, including penalties of €40 million or up to 3.5% of their global annual revenue. This decision builds on an earlier commitment made by the EU in October 2025, when leaders pledged to phase out all Russian fuel imports entirely across the bloc. Despite reducing imports of Russian gas by roughly 75% since 2021, the European Union still remains Russia's largest overall energy customer. During the war, purchases of Russian liquefied natural gas have actually increased, as pipeline deliveries fell sharply due to conflict-related disruptions. US President Donald Trump has also urged European nations to replace Russian gas with American LNG supplies, framing it as a matter of strategic independence. These political and economic developments come as Russian aviation continues heavy attacks on Ukraine, using a record 5,717 air bombs throughout January 2026. According to the independent outlet Militani, that figure represents a 26% increase in Russian bombing activity compared to December 2025. The 5,717 air bombs dropped in January also mark Russia's highest monthly total since the invasion of Ukraine began, underscoring how intense the conflict has become.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.